Hey everybody, thanks for joining Low Budget Time. And today, as promised, we're going to take a look at the 5513 from Watchdives. That's it's a homage to the Rolex Milsub. Um, I got a little bit of small facts about the Milsub, the original Milsub, the one that costs like as much as a house. So this one here is relatively inexpensive. This watch is on loan to me, and I thought I would take the opportunity to go over it just like I did with the Tudor sub homage that we looked at just recently. This watch is same exact form factor as the last one, so I'm gonna I'm gonna roll through the form factor of this watch real quick so I don't forget, and because I have been known to do that. So this is a true 38. I want to say that it's slightly over 38 millimeters. It's probably around, if it's anything, it's probably like 38.8 to be exact. They list it as 38, so I don't know. You get the internet is kind of weird like that. You get information, some of it's good information, some of it's bad information. So you got to take that with a grain of salt. But I don't have a pair of calipers, so I can't exactly measure it. Watchdive says 38. Some people on the internet say 38.8. Let's just say it's somewhere in the middle, but it's at least 30. It's at least 38 millimeters. The height of the watch, or the thickness, it's around 12.85. This has a what they call it has a slight dome on it, but they're also calling it a top hat sapphire. So for what it's worth, we'll just go with that. And then the lug width is 47 millimeters, which makes this watch actually very wearable. Nice. 20 millimeter lug opening. But yeah, that's essentially the case dimensions. The watch also has drilled lugs, just like the last one that I showed you. And this one is, it's got that military inspired sword style hands, and the Milsub insert or style insert that basically tracks each minute through 60. So aluminum insert as well on this guy. Had a hard time. I basically had a hard time getting the plastic off this watch, but I finally finally was able to get it off. This one also has AR coating on the underside of the sapphire crystal. So, done really nice. It's got a matte dial. Well, let's talk about what makes the Milsub so desirable. So, back around 1962 is when the original, I guess, the case for the Rolex, this type of, well, this isn't a Rolex, of course, this is a Watchdives, but the original Rolex 5513 was introduced around 62. Military issuance to the British Royal Navy was happening in sometime around, I would say 70 to 7. It ran around from 1970 to 72. So yeah, the product years were between 72 and 79. The original ones had a T on the dial, which delineated the use of tritium. So if it had a T in it, it was using tritium. So they started using tritium around. Let me see. The use of radium stopped around 63, but the Rolex had gone entirely to the use of tritium from radium in 63. I had made a little bit of a mistake in the last video I made. I had assumed that the Tudor sub also used radium, but radium was really dangerous stuff. It's not like tritium. Like tritium is still an isotope, but it's not as dangerous as radium. Radium was literally that was responsible for people dying. Like it's at some point, people they got cancer from it, and I talked about the radium girls and all that. But different watch manufacturers had phased radium out in different times, so they all didn't do it at the same time. And don't forget, I don't know that the NRC was actually in play. I don't know if they were in play in the 60s. I probably should have looked that up. I do apologize, I didn't. But for all intents and purposes, to do this video to get the facts straight, yeah. So the use of radium has ceased to exist by 63. They were not going to do that anymore due to worker health. So that's the issue. Now this watch, this version or replica does not use that patinaed, yellowed, because that's what would happen after time. Both tritium and radium will get yellow. It's just what happens to the paint over the course of however many years. Like if this were actually a real Rolex from that year, the patina on the handset and the indices would be yellow. This also has the sword style hands. They used that as a recommendation, I believe, from, I want to say, I think it was recommended by the British Royal Navy to increase the underwater legibility so they could see better. I don't think the Mercans they weren't able to handle as much lume, so they went to this sword style, which was able to actually have more luminescent material inside. So that I actually like the sword hands better than I'm not a big fan of Mercedes hands. I've said this a million times. I just don't like the aesthetic of it. It's nothing to do with, the history of it, because it's got great history. I just don't care for the aesthetic. But that's just me. So I'm trying to think if there's any other facts that I want to blow forward here. So the case back on this watch is sterile, but the original case back would have had engravings on it to differentiate it from a standard 5513. So it would have had probably some type of mil-spec writing or something to delineate it that it's a military watch and it's issued and use was for that purpose. So I guess, just like the United States, I guess the PXs, or what would be the equivalent to a PX in Britain, I don't know what that is, a supply center, supply house, I don't know what that would be, but you could probably buy the watch or get a watch from that form of PX, right? So, there isn't many surviving examples of the Milsub, and so if you find one, just like I said in my last video, that's like hitting the lottery, man. It's like, it doesn't even really matter what the shape is, you could be sitting on a lot of money. There's not many surviving examples, so I like the fact that you can get a watch that is, it's a replica, it's a homage, it's all the shitty things that people say about homages, and you know what? Whatever, man. I just think it beats, looking at a magazine. I like to be able to hold something and say, okay, that's kind of looks like, and I said this in my last video, it kind of reminds me of what, it's nice to be able to pick something up and hold it. So yeah, that's what I like about these watches. Whether you, like I said, if you never wear the watch, if you wear the watch, it doesn't matter. If it's just in your box and you want to use it as a conversation piece, or you just think it's a cool watch and it's worth collecting. It is. Is it of the same quality as the Rolex? Absolutely not. And anybody that makes you think that is wrong. They're just wrong. Okay, Rolex. I'm a fan of Rolex. I don't own one. I don't aspire to own one. But fact is fact. The watches are freaking incredible. They were made to be serviced and continuing to run. They are, when you think of the term workhorse and you think of the term built to last, it's a tool. That's what they meant. They meant that watch to last decades. If you service the watch correctly, and this is true of any watch, but if you service the watch correctly and you stay on top of it, that watch will last you and possibly the next person that you will it to for the rest of their life. Rolex did not build a watch for you to have for a few years and then toss in the container. They didn't do that. all respect there. Are there other watchmakers that are equally as good? Yeah, absolutely. But Rolex does not build a watch to be tossed in a bin. They just don't. And they made the watch to wear. They made the watch not only to wear, but they made it to enjoy, and they made it to just last and stand the test of time. This watch here, is it disposable? No, I don't think it's disposable, but I don't think it's not in the same. It's definitely not nowhere near. Is it? It should be even talked about in the same breath as Rolex. It's not. It's literally like, it's like taking. I'll give you an example. It's like buying a model of a car, a plastic model, and you're putting all the pieces together, and at the end, it's like, oh, that's really cool. It's a model. It's not the real thing, but it is just a representation of it. And I think you can enjoy these things much better if you don't take them that seriously. Like, that's my opinion. I'm not an expert. I don't claim to be a watch expert. I'm just I'm just interested in the hobby of horology and watches. And I just think watches they're just so awesome that it's a hobby that you can have a lot of these things. They don't take up a lot of room. And if you like things that are mechanical, I like mechanical watches, and just an excellent hobby to be in. You don't have to spend tens of thousands of dollars to enjoy the hobby. You can enjoy it in all different aspects and different segments of the hobby. So where I'm on the low end or low budget end of the hobby to mid tier. Sometimes I collect mid tier stuff. I don't really talk about that too much on my channel, but because it's easier to obtain a watch that's a few $100, or in this case, borrow it and not feel like, I'm spending an assload of money to stay in this hobby. So, I mean, if I'm going to stay in the mid tier, what am I going to do? I'm going to buy a watch maybe once a year. I'm going to blow my budget. You know what I mean? I like watches too much to be able to say, I'm good with one this year. I can't do that. So I got to constantly get them in. I get these in and I send them out, but I'm getting ready to actually send this one out and the one yesterday, send it back with a couple other watches that I borrowed. But yeah, it's an interesting hobby, and you can enjoy it from all different levels, whether it be from the low end, like I'm talking about, or even the high end. Okay, so we talked about a lot of things already. The case finishing on this thing, they gave it a nice satin. It's not polished, but it's done to, I think it's done to a high standard. And again, you got that drill, the drilled lugs there, which makes strap changes really easy. I didn't talk about the bezel action, but it's really good. And just like I said in the other video, they described it as crispy. I'll agree, it's crispy. And look at the bezel's height. It even pays homage to the height of the Rolex bezel. Would have been very similar to that. In fact, I would say that this watch probably shares either exacting measurements or damn near close. Like, I know that if you needed to replace this bezel insert, you could find an aluminum bezel insert for a 5513 that will fit in this. So it's a 40 millimeter bezel. 40 millimeter sloped bezel. I even seen where you can do, if you get a ceramic, you can put a ceramic one in here. I don't recommend that, only because if you're trying to keep the watch as a working replica of a Milsub, then you want to keep it as original. I think you want to keep it as original as possible. Now, the rehaut in it is also similar to the distance. Let's see if I can get you a better. Yeah, you see that? The rehaut's not very thick. So they did a good job on that. We'll talk about the movement in a second. But the indices also, they're applied indices, and they do have like trim rings on them. So it's not just bubbles of paint in there. They're actually applied indices. Now it's BGW9 Super Luminova in this, by the way. Now we're talking about the movement. The movement comes from a company, and I did talk about this in the last video with the Tudor. It's made by a company called Hangzhou, and it is referenced as the PT5000. The watch's accuracy is around +5 seconds a day, so it's pretty good. It does share commonality with the ETA 2824-2, and in some cases, it'll even share parts. You can actually interchange parts. Like, I don't know why you want to buy a more expensive ETA part, but I guess if you got stuck, or maybe perhaps you break watches down and you have some parts, so those parts are interchangeable. They basically, what they did, and the Chinese love doing this, they'll go into something, break it down, and then they'll backwards engineer it, figure out a cheap way to manufacture it, and then from there, it's off to the races. I'm noticing a lot more of these AliExpress watches, and that's where this one came from. I'm noticing a lot more of the AliExpress watches. They're starting to use the PT5000 because it is a higher performance alternative to the NH35. I'm not trying to throw shade on the NH35. I have tons of them. Some of them work where they're very, very accurate. Like the watch I have on now, super accurate. I haven't had to adjust the watch since I've had it on my wrist, and it's been probably over a month now, or near it. It's been a month. I have not had to adjust the time at all. It's been that accurate. Can I say that about every NH35 I have? Absolutely not. Some of the NH35s I have are atrocious. They'd have to be regulated, and I'm not paying to have the damn thing regulated. It's an automatic watch. It is what it is. It's fairly new. Some of the watches I have, like the movements are, the watch is new. I'm not going to pay to have it serviced, especially when, even if it's off by a few seconds a day, it's not that important to me. Some people are really hung up on accuracy, and if that's your thing, if accuracy is your thing, you're going to pay a lot of money for accuracy. Watch movements in general, the more expensive the movement, the better your chances you're probably going to get something that's really accurate. However, these watches are, the PT5000 has been known to be really accurate. They have also been known to fail. So read where people just say, oh, the watch is not working. That's nice. I don't know if that is an older version, if they sorted out the issues, and I did make reference to this in the last video. Maybe they got it sorted out. I don't know. Time will tell. I won't know because these will be gone. And I'm probably going to pick one of these watches up at some point. I just don't know when. But I've been wanting to take a look at these watches and, look at the sweep and see how nice it is. 28,800 vibrations per hour. So it shares the same, the same, I guess, frequency as the regular ETA 2824-2. It has the same joule count at 25. Power reserve is probably around 38 hours, something like that, give or take. The issues I've read with this movement is in the automatic winding. I don't automatically wind my watches. I usually just shake them up. I usually just give it a couple shakes, get the rotor moving, and that just powers things up, and then I set the time and date. Now this one, as you'll notice, there's no date in here. This is a ghost, they call it a ghost date, so there would be, and at the position where the date would be at the crown position, there's nothing there. Some people complain about that, but I don't know what you're complaining about. There's just no date wheel. It's just a delete date wheel. Big deal. So, if you want to pay more for a movement that is specifically designed to not have a date, like the NH38, which I made reference to I think yesterday was the last video I posted. That's up to you. It doesn't matter to me. I've got a few examples of ghost date watches, and I think once you get used to it, it's fine. It's no big deal. I am more interested in where to set the time than I am anything else. And some watches I have a date complication on it. I don't even set the date. I mean, it's okay to have it, but it's not a complication that I go for. Like, I have many watches that I love, but I don't necessarily need the date complication. In fact, I would be fine if none of my watches had a date complication, because it's just, to me, it's just one more thing to go wrong. It's one more thing to break. This watch does use, we're going to talk about the bracelet. It does have screws to do your adjustment. Let's see if I can get in there. You can see the screws there. I did, of course, I'm not going to size this because it's not my watch, but this is Watchdives fairly new. It's a pretty nice clasp. It's fully milled. Excuse me. Now, here's where I'm going to have some criticism on this watch. I don't know if it's just because it's new. I was able to get this watch to, I was able to get the, it's supposed to, there's a button in here. Let me see if I can show you. There's a button inside. It says push. I don't know if you can see that. You see where my finger is in there? You're supposed to be able to push down on that, and then the clasp or the bracelet will articulate forward and aft, right? I was able to actually move it one click in, but I'm not able to get it to move back out. So I think it's just because it's new. This is a design of on-the-fly clasp that I'm not used to playing with. So I think it's just maybe new. I'm thinking about putting some lubricant in there to see if I can get it to free up. But again, it looks like, again, if you go inside of here, you see that it looks like a ladder in there, like where my index finger is. I think what happens is that this somehow has to be able to fold down, and then it has to be able to skip over that ladder. But like I said, I haven't been able to play with it. I got to tell you, maybe it's just me. I'm not going to throw shade on that right now because I got to play around with it a little bit more. It's the only clasp I don't have any clasps that do that. This bracelet is relatively integrated into this on-the-fly clasp, they call it. It's probably really great once you get it working. I'm just not comfortable with it yet. But again, I'm not going to say it sucks right now. I'm just going to say that I'm not used to playing with it. So I tried to mess around with it last night a little bit. I'm like, man, maybe it's just new. Sometimes things are just a little bit tight and they have to be worked through. So again, it's a pretty cool clasp. It's actually very nice. One of the things I forgot to do last night, and I'm going to do it now, is I'm going to show you what the watch looks like on a wrist. I didn't do that with the other one, but I'll do it to this one. Again, I didn't size it, but let me just look at that. Look at that. Isn't that nice? That's for your dual push button clasp there, and it's a signed clasp too, by the way. But you can see if this thing were sized, how it would look on the wrist. Man, that is nice. That really is a nice watch. I mean, look at the form factor. I got a 7-inch wrist, and look at how that lays on the wrist. Isn't that nice? I really do like this watch. I think they did a nice job, and I think that, like I said earlier in this video, is it on par with an actual Milsub? No, it's not. But does it hold its own as a pretty cool watch to own? Absolutely. I kind of went over some of the things that I think are really cool about this watch, and I actually like everything about it. The clasp, I'm going to get used to that. I'll probably get used to it right before I send it out, but I'll probably work it through. Like I said, I'm going to put a little bit of lubricant in there and see if I can't get things moving a little bit. I'm going to see if I can read something about the clasp to see maybe if I'm doing something wrong. But to me, it sounded pretty self-explanatory. You push, and then the bracelet can slide back and forth inside the clasp, but it wasn't really doing that when I was trying it. So that being as it may, be as it may. So sometimes things don't work out perfectly, but let's check out the Lume on this watch, and then we'll wrap things up with a final thought. Shut some lights down. All right. So we're using a flashlight. We're not using a UV light. Sometimes it's always better to use UV light when you can. It just gives you a better representation of how good the Lume is on this watch. But you know what? This watch's Lume, I got the feeling is going to be really, really good. The one we looked at yesterday, or when the last video I did with that Tudor sub Homage, that thing really glowed. And this one is not disappointing either. One thing I'll tell you is AliExpress watches, or not the brands that are sold on AliExpress, have always been really good in the Lume category. You can see that pip. You can see the pip glowing there. You know? And it's running too. Is it running? No. I thought it was running. See if I can get it energized. Not sure if yeah, I didn't get it running. Sometimes they'll pick up and they'll start running right away, but this one, for whatever reason, some watches I have do that. They're not as friendly when it comes to, there it goes. Yeah, so it's starting to move now. You can see the second hand in there. Really nice watch, guys. And the longevity of the Lume is probably really good. I've never actually timed it, because you never know what you're going to get across the board, but you know, it's a pretty cool watch nonetheless. I think I kind of talked about everything. I hope I didn't miss anything. If you're not subscribed in a low budget time, hit the subscribe button and even hit the like button if you like today's video. Would really appreciate it. Again, as always, I'm not trying to build this thing into anything, because my exposure, transparency, whatever it is not, I don't have the bandwidth that most people have on this forum. I try to give the best information I can. I might make mistakes. Again, I'm not perfect, but I'm just a novice. I'm not an expert. I don't claim to be an expert. I'm just basically a consumer. So low budget time is a consumer's perspective mainly. So, you know, if I say something that doesn't sound right to you, hey man, fact check me. I don't care. And you can correct me in the comment section. It's not going to hurt my feelings, because that's already happened. But hey, I give credit where credit's due. If somebody calls me out on something and they're right about it, I'm not the kind of guy that says, oh, you're wrong and I'm right. No, it doesn't work like that with me. If you have the facts, and I made a mistake, I make a mistake. I'm human. I'm not perfect. I'll see you guys in the next episode of Low Budget Time. As always, take care, stay safe, be well, have a great holiday season. Got another one coming at some point, probably in a week or two. That one is going to be another Tudor sub Homage, this time with a no date. And this time doesn't have the patina on the dial. It looks like a new watch. It does have this on-the-fly clasp, so maybe by then I'll have it figured out how it works, or maybe perhaps that one works better. I don't know. Sometimes you have to wonder with the QC on some of these things. Sometimes they're just mass producing this stuff, and you know, there's a couple screws on here, so I'm wondering if maybe the adjustment can be made to. Yeah, I'm kind of wondering if an adjustment can be made to move that back and forth, because that's what it looks like. It looks like the plate that moves back and forth may be a little too tight in there. So if I loosen it up a little bit, it'll come around. I'm gonna try to do that, and then just adjust it accordingly. Anyway, guys, I'll see you in the next episode again. Take care.